You have some aches and pains. You can't figure out why. Watch this.
Our next caller is John from California.
John, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions, and thank you for all the amazing information you guys put out there. It's been really helpful.
Awesome.
My situation has evolved since I submitted my question. So, would you like me to stick to my original question, or kind of?
Let's hear it.
Well, you can riff.
Why don't you,
man. It's up to you.
Go off your original and then tell us how it changed.
Okay. So I finished Powerlift. Now it was 3 weeks ago, but 2 weeks ago. And I felt great throughout the program. I started Symmetry right after that, and my body hasn't been feeling as good. I have more aches and pains, and my lower back's been pretty sensitive. And so I was wondering if this was a common thing, or if I should just keep going with Symmetry. And yeah, I haven't been sleeping well either because of the minor aches and pains. The evolution has been the aches and pains have gotten better, and my lower back feels better, but then I'm experiencing a lot of pain in my kind of trap area. And so I went to see a physical therapist, and he mentioned that it might be like a disc issue. So I'm getting an MRI in a week.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm kind of wondering where to go from there. I obviously want to avoid surgery at all costs. And I just listened to a guy named Shane on the last episode you guys put out, and he experienced, sounds like, similar issues. So yeah, kind of where to go from here.
So John, when you do something new, if it highlights imbalances and the intensity is too high for you and your imbalances, you can start to experience aches and pains. So I think what's happening is you probably, before Symmetry, did you train mostly bilaterally, barbells, dumbbell, like traditional strength training?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Even before I started Powerlift, I was always bilateral.
Okay, so like if you balance on one foot or you're doing one arm stuff, like your joints have to stabilize and balance
stress,
differently than they did before. So what I would say if you were my client is I would say cut way back on the intensity with Symmetry, because it's opening things up or highlighting things, and you're probably training too hard for where your body's at in the context of the program. So you might not get the muscle burn and the pumps that you're expecting, but that's okay. We're allowing your joints and stability to catch up. So I'd slow down and go easier in MAP Symmetry. And in fact, you're already seeing some of those old aches and pains start to get better because things started to balance out.
I was going to say, I think he's already starting to see what's going to happen if you keep going that. Yeah. It's going to get better.
But the intensity is probably a little too high for what your body's looking for. And then as far as the disc issue is concerned, of course you want to make sure that that you're okay to exercise, but go easier. Mm-hmm. That's what I would suggest. Go easier with MAP Symmetry.
That's a hard thing to tell somebody that's a powerlifter.
Well, so John, here's what happens with a lot of people when they go on one side, when they stop bilateral exercise and they start doing one arm or one leg, is that they have a tough time with going lighter, and they tend to compromise technique and form without realizing it to try to be able to lift the amount of weight or with the type of intensity that they're used to with bilateral exercise. So if you always bench press with a barbell and now you're going to go on a bench or whatever with one dumbbell and you're used to a certain amount of CNS output and driving, you're not going to get that with one arm yet because there's a lot of balance that's involved. Like the limiting factor is not the weight. The limiting factor is going to be the stability and the balance. Your form has to be perfect. If your form's not perfect on both sides, then all you're going to do is strengthen imbalances. You're not going to correct
You're
that.
so strong in other directions. And to be able to now place yourself in a position where your body has to stabilize and account for a lot more balance and, this unilateral type of stability is going to be completely different in the the bracing and the core and everything else. So these like little secondary muscles are going to be worked a bit harder than they were, previous to that, which is then going to, so that's just something to consider in terms of like going too intense. It really will play into like how you feel afterwards.
Listen, this is actually, John, this is actually really common.
Yeah.
Especially if you would consider yourself, or if you identified as kind of like a power lifter type of guy, if you've trained most of your life with that kind of mentality, the way you hit the weights, we're really kind of asking you to completely shift the way you think and the way you approach them. And that's hard if you've been a consistent lifter for a long time and lifted a certain way, just as like it's really difficult to get a bodybuilder to lift like a power lifter who's lifted like a bodybuilder for his whole life. And then now you go, hey, you're gonna do your first powerlifting meet, and he does it with all these weird short range emotions. And like, he doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And he doesn't know how to drive his legs. Like, I mean, so that the same is true for them. And so as you approach into symmetry, and then probably should do a program like performance to follow it up, like you have to, it's really the mentality as you go into it, which is tough for a big, strong guy, is to like be obsessed with the control and the movement, and almost look at it in this like artistic way and making the movement look pretty. Which is you got to kind of think
it's a totally different workout.
I think too.
I know that sounds really weird and funny, but that's how much you have to shift the way you look at your training now. It's not about how heavy is the dumbbell that you're holding on to, and it's more of like, how perfectly can I make my left side look like my right side, and keeping it controlled through the whole movement and slowing it down.
Well, I think even like, so you did our MAPS power lift, like even Ben Pollock, who is this very accomplished power lifter, then goes to do a split stance movement, right, and just started working on getting better at that. That was a big struggle for him.
Oh, he was a 700-pound squatter.
And he's like one of the strongest guys out there,
and he was doing 135 split stance, and you could see in his
shaking
technique,
like a leaf.
It was very tough for him because it was totally new. So, in other words, to put it differently, John, the limiting factor here is not how much weight you can lift. The limiting factor is how stable you can be during the lift. Your stability will go far before your strength does. So you'll be able to handle way heavier dumbbells, but your stability is not going to be so great, and you can cause yourself some problems. So your technique is the limiting factor. And what Adam said is exactly right. Perfect technique, matching right to left, going slow, going controlled, total different mentality. That's a hard switch. It's hard to go from power lift to symmetry. That's going to be a very difficult switch because it's totally different mentality. Now, at the end of symmetry, you got your 5x5.
Tremendously.
The last phase is 5x5. If you feel amazing, go into it. If you still feel like, then I would go back through symmetry and then go into that last phase on that second time around.
It's tough when you're the strong dude, man. I mean, nothing's more humbling than, being a guy who can bench press, 315 plus, no problem. And then I'm asking you to use like 40-pound dumbbell presses, like, and you're doing something that you're like, oh my God, I feel like my wife can do this. This is bullshit. It's like, you have to get rid of that, bro. It's tough, man. So weights. It is, but it is common. And it also is actually highlighting a really good thing. There's lots of opportunity here for you, and if you can get if you can shift the mentality and lift like this for a while, it's really going to serve you, and you'll come back even stronger. So I think what you're feeling and going through is your body talking to you and telling you like, this is needed. We need to do this, and it's gonna suck for the ego for a little bit, but I promise you it'll serve you in the long run.
That's right. John, do you have mass performance? Because I'd like you to follow up.
Yes.
Symmetry of performance.
I do. Yeah, I have symmetry and performance.
Okay.
So that was kind of my next question is,
that would be next.
So you think finish symmetry, and because the caller before, Shane, you mentioned to skip the 5x5 section of symmetry based on his issue. And so
but he had,
do you think I should assess how I feel?
Well, John,
potentially yes. Yeah, potentially yes.
Yeah, he actually had surgery. You haven't been diagnosed yet. If you get diagnosed with herniated disc or something like that, then yes, I would have you avoid that last phase.
Yeah.
But if you feel good, go for it. Go ahead and test it and enjoy it and see how it is. But I mean, it would be one of those things. And I tell you what, why don't we do this, John? I'll have Doug put you in the private forum, and then just keep us posted. So as you get further along the program, and get closer after you get diagnosed, shoot us a message in there. Just tag one or all of us and let us know what the diagnosis was and or how you're feeling through the program, and then we can give you some tips from there.
Okay, excellent. Sounds awesome.
All right, man.
Right on, John.
All right, thank you guys.
That's funny you brought up that video with Ben. I remember that. It was 135. This guy who squats 700
Like
pounds.
one of the strongest guys out there.
And it was so hard because
And it looked awkward as fuck watching.
It
him
did
do
because he's never done. Now, obviously,
he just doesn't do it.
obviously he has the actual force. He's got the strength to lift more than that, but in that position, his stability was the limiting.
And what will happen? Like I'm visualizing like a power lifter that's used to lifting some serious weight, and then they go to one arm dumbbell press or something like that, and you have this tendency to. I mean, John probably has the strength to press 100-pound dumbbells over his head, easy because he's got the strength to do it. But then he's overcompensating to the left or right or torquing something,
and all the stabilizers
right.
can't support it.
That's right. And then the low back is like firing like crazy, and he's just like, why is it causing these issues? And it's like, you're approaching the lift like you would.
I remember the first time I did a Bulgarian split stance squat. I didn't do it again for years because
so hard.
In the gym I was squat
it's painful, the soreness you get after that too.
I'd squat 300 plus pounds in the gym, no problem, and then I go to do a Bulgarian split stance squat and 20-pound dumbbells. 20-pound dumbbells, and I was hurting. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is embarrassing.
I guarantee you supporting cast muscles are just really sore.